Hello and welcome to the Habit Architect. My name is Michael Cupps. I'm glad to see everybody back with us. We've got a really fun show today because I'm going to introduce you to somebody that we're having a lot of fun with and getting to know in the Habit Architect show. So I'll talk about that in a minute. But the topic today is about when we talk to people about habits, what they say. So most people know, they say, I've read the book Atomic Habits. I know habits. But when I ask the question, what habits are you doing today? I get a lot of stammering and stuttering. Well, I'm going to start, that later. I don't know. I am going to walk, but there's really not a plan associated with their habit structure. And I want to spend a little bit of time today talking about that because we all are aware of what we should go do or want to go do. But there's something that kind of holds us back or prevents us from getting where we want to go. And so I want to explore that topic a little bit today. And of course, you can find information on timebandit.io. And some of the things we're talking about today, really, you should have a habit tracker. So if you don't have a habit tracker, go to your Apple Store, go to your Google Play Store and download Time Bandit, the mobile app, because it has a really great habit tracker in there. And if you don't want to use that one, you've got another one. Just get a habit tracker because that accountability is one of the things that I'm going to talk a little bit about today. But before we get on to that, I want to introduce everybody that watches the show to Florencia. So Florencia, if you can come back from backstage on stage in the virtual world. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
I am so excited to have you on with me today because I've really enjoyed getting to know you. So for those of you who are wondering who is Flora, she is the producer of The Habit Architect, starting with season 2. So all the recent episodes and the ones you will see coming up, she is the producer of, and we're having so much fun getting to know one another. And she pushes me in interesting ways, being in her age bracket versus mine, and it's fun and it's good. And I think we're all better for it. How are you today?
I'm good, actually. I'm hoping I do a good job, so you invite me back so I can be a guest again. It's such an honor.
I have a feeling if you just be yourself, it's going to be great. So I want to talk about a couple of things today. You and I've talked a little bit about the topics, and we talk about it seems like weekly, about habits and priorities and things like that anyway. But I mentioned in the opening that it's funny when I tell somebody about the book, they say, hey, what was your book about? I say about habits, priority management, etc. And they go, oh yeah, I know all that stuff. And that's great. Building strong habits are great. And then, like I said, when I ask them, it's usually, well, I didn't get that started. I didn't do that. I meant to do that. I'm going to start next week, that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. I'm definitely one of those. I think that mostly habits are about a state of mind. And I've become very self-aware of what I do and don't do since I've started working with you on the Habit Architect. When you ask guests, oh, what's a habit that you want to keep? And people are like, I don't know, none. And I feel that so deeply because it comes to a point where we all have habits and sometimes we don't know. Like, for example, we brush our teeth every day, I hope, and that's a habit for sure. But It does, as you become older, it becomes so much harder to actually build habits and sustain them. And I'm a big quitter. I start a sport, I quit, like, is really, really, really hard. And I actually have no idea why that happens. So I'm really excited to see your insights on this.
Absolutely. I think there's two topics I'd like to talk. There's probably a lot of different reasons why habits don't stick or habits don't get started. And I actually think humans are very good at starting new habits. They just don't carry on with it. So it becomes a habit. They start a new thing, but they don't necessarily. And I think there's two distinct areas that I want to talk about today. And these are kind of odd words, they don't roll off the top of your tongue, but finite time blindness is one of them. And the other one is temporal discounting. Mm-hmm. And so finite time blindness is one that I think most of us have. And in a very short explanation of what it is, we think we have more time than we do. Right. And now that can apply to big things like life. It can apply to little things like a college student that needs to get a research paper done. And what that finite blindness turns into is procrastination sometimes. Right. Because we think that, you know what, And here's I think this probably is the most common around the world. I'll start that diet on Monday, right? And so what's that mean? Well, that's that temporal discounting, is that what they're saying is, I really want the short-term value of what I'm going to do this weekend, and I'll get to that harder thing Monday, right? And so those two things in combination, thinking we have more time than we do, and then really wanting that short-term gratification more than the pain of getting the long-term gratification, right? Those are the two concepts. What do you think about those?
Oh, 100%, 100%. Because and you know what's the worst part? Like, I do them with things that I don't like doing. Like, for example, I don't know. I've scheduled myself that every Friday I have to vacuum, for example.
Yep.
But that's something I don't like to do. I mean, I'm not a huge, so sometimes I procrastinate it for sure. I'm like, I'll just do it on Saturday that I have more time.
Yep.
But then there's things that I procrastinate that I actually like too. And I don't know why that happens, like reading a book, like writing something. I like writing. So sometimes just like journaling and stuff. And I procrastinate that too. I don't know. I guess I don't really know how to make that stick either. It's like a part of me says, well, it's a hobby, so I shouldn't have to be like forcing myself to do it. It should like come to me.
Yeah.
It doesn't come to me. It doesn't.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about that. We're going to talk them in the context of an anchor later, but you just said the magical thing. And I want to first say that is that, you want to do it, but it's a hobby or something like that. So what you just said is that it's not high enough on your priority list to take over something else. And it's not your fault, by the way. It's not your fault at all.
Good.
We live in a society that is so endorphin based, right? And you get those from different things like scrolling TikTok or Instagram or whatever, LinkedIn, if you're in the business world, whatever. That there is a massive amount of things that can distract you from things that you want to do, and they're designed to do it, right? iPhone, Apple would like no one to ever look away from their screen, right? That's what they build systems to do, is keep you addicted to that device. And it happens everywhere, right? And it happens everywhere. So I think that it's an interesting thing. And that the concept of you always have time later to read that book too, right? I mean, you think, well, you know what? I'm not going to read now, but I'll, Thursday night, I've got alone time. I'm going to do it then, right?
I actually go between two extremes for that. Like, one of them is, I'm young, I'm 30, I can read when I'm old. I can hire a very beautiful woman to read by my bedside, even if I'm blind. It's something we can do. But then on the other hand, sometimes I look at my Goodreads list and I'm like, there are thousands of books. I could never read all these books. That's when I started researching. I don't know if you guys remember Anna, which we had on the show. But I started researching the Headway app because I was like, maybe this is the way that I can read every single book that I want to read, because there's not enough time. And then I get freaked out. And that also leads to no reading. And that also leads to scrolling aimlessly on TikTok, because it's like lower risk in a way. It's like, well, whatever, right? Like,
and our minds trick us a bit to say, what you're doing now is easier than changing what we're doing, right? And that's a challenge. But what you described with your books, when you said you'll be an old lady and you can read then, that's finite time blindness right there, right? Because time does move faster than we anticipate. And I think especially in your age group and below, there is a very common thing that says, I have more time to do this, whatever this is. Run a marathon. I want to do that. I'll do that when I'm, in next year, or in the next year, and then next year, and the next year, and all of a sudden you're 40. And it's not to say you can't run a marathon at 40. It's just an interesting thing that we delay things because, well, they're either hard or there's other things that are more pleasurable for us in the short term, right?
Do you think that like my age bracket, right? Like, I'm talking about people my age. Do you think that we're not aware consciously about this finite time blindness, but maybe subconsciously, and we manifest it in a way? Because I talk to people my age and they often say sometimes that they wake up in the middle of the night and they feel like they're late for something. They're like, oh my God, like, what am I doing? and they get stuck in this loop of being like, I haven't done anything really. I have all these goals and I haven't done anything and I'm running out of time. But then they only feel that at night, or they only feel that in extreme pressure situations or when they're wasted. But we don't really talk about that in our day to day. We're just sitting there like beep, 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 doing our stuff.
Yep. Yeah. And that's a bit of the temporal discounting a bit, because if you think about what you just said there is, we all want to accomplish great things. And sometimes the great thing is defined by what we think it is, whether it's read 1,000 books or become mayor of your community or whatever that big thing is. And we somewhat idolize that because of our culture. We see it on TV, and they make movies and TV shows about somebody that was an intern, and all of a sudden they're a CEO within 30 minutes of a sitcom or something like that. And so what's not in that is what it takes to get there, right? And so people need to understand that you can't go to the top of the mountain without taking the first step and the second step and the third step. And so if you're going to climb a mountain, you've got to take every step yourself. Sure, you could, if you've got money, you could pay a helicopter to drive you up there, but then that's not why you climb a mountain, right? That's not why you're doing it. So if only thing to do it is that reward that you can snap a picture up on top of the mountain, then that's your goal's wrong, right? Because that's a different perspective. But if you want to go climb a mountain, that's your goal, and it just takes every step. And so what you have to do is try to reward yourself based on a value system that's important to you, that every step's going to help you and every step matters, that you enjoy every step, right? If it's drudgery, it's hard to do. And some things in life is drudgery and we have to do it. But
college.
Exactly. You're vacuuming, right? We just have to do it. But guess what? When a guest comes over, they appreciate that, and you probably appreciate it too, that they're not saying, oh, when was the last time you vacuumed, right? So there is a reward for it, even though it's something we don't want to do, but it's still a challenge. And so that's why I want to talk about the anchors in a minute. But do you have any more questions about why we delay things or procrastination or anything?
I think that could it be, and I was actually thinking about this yesterday when I was going over what I was going to say today. Do you think that maybe when we're sad, it's even harder to do these things? Because sometimes when I'm really sad and when I had a really rough day, sometimes I like self-sabotage. I go to bed without brushing my teeth. I know it's bad. I sit there in my bed and I'm like mad. I'm like, why didn't I hate this? Like, my teeth are gross. I should get up, but I don't want to. It's like I want to break that habit. It's like I want to. I don't know if that's like being sad, if it's self-sabotage, if it's habit breaking on purpose.
There's that's a big topic that we could probably spend a show talking about too. That self-sabotage thing, because there's a spectrum there of people that have mental health issues because they don't ever feel like they're good enough, right? And that's a big problem, and they need to get help with that, because they probably are good enough and even better than they think they are. But until they kind of work through that in their mind, it's really hard. But on a micro level, like you were talking about, yes, I think sadness is there, and that's where I personally think meditation and things like that come into reset. You have to find a way, whatever it is. If it's meditation, go for a walk, sing a song. It doesn't matter. You have to find a way to reset where your headspace is. Mm-hmm. And I want to be cautious. If it's a mental health issue, get help. But in a simple term, for some things, just find a way to reset yourself. For me, I call it meditation, but sometimes it's just sitting out in the yard with my dog, because things just calm down around me, right? And then I can reset and think about and we're going to talk about this in a minute, what values am I trying to support here? And I need to go do these things. And sometimes those things, they're never as bad as they seem, right? Mm-hmm. You just have to get started on them. And
I don't know if it's a habit. I don't know if maybe it is, but I have found out that when you're happy, and that's that. Yeah. It's easier to do things. But when I'm struggling, I find that having a routine and sticking to some habits really helps me get out of that headspace and onto something different. Is that what you are going to bring about with the anchoring thing?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm going to talk a little bit more about how it anchored. But what you're absolutely right, and I think I'm thankful you said that, because sometimes if you just start, even if you don't want to, you're going to be so appreciative of yourself, and it can turn dread into something wonderful. And sometimes it's very hard to start, right? Put down the phone, whatever it may be. You are sacrificing something to do something else, and initially you may not think it's a thing. But I just recently I decided to walk 5+ miles a day, right?
That's a long walk. I bet Dylan is very happy.
Who's Dylan?
Oh, isn't that your dog?
Oliver.
Oh,
But I bet there is a Dylan very happy for me, though.
I changed his name. I'm so sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. It made me laugh because I'm thinking there's a Dylan somewhere that really supports what I'm doing. So if you're a Dylan, put some comments in the chat. No, I just decided I wanted to walk 5 miles plus a day, and I don't do it all at once. I do. Oliver and I get about 4,000 steps or so with him and his walk, and then I go for one more. So I'm usually at about 2.73 before 7 a.m. And I love it because it's just my headspace time. It's cooler here in Texas and early, so I like that. And then in the evening, sometimes it's with Catherine, sometimes it's by myself. I just get the rest of it. And the first week, there were times where I'd walk Oliver, come back, and I go, oh, I don't want to go back out. I don't want to do, but I just did. I just said, okay, I'm going to open the door and I'm going to go. And just, what's it going to hurt?
Do you feel better now?
Oh my gosh. Yes. I love it. And I can just feel, I think it complements some of the stuff I'm doing, and we're going to have a guest that's a personal trainer on soon. So it complements that. It's not aggressive exercise, but it's about flow and steps, and it's just, it just kind of calms me out. And
but do you also feel like when you go, right, and you come back and you're like, I did it?
Yes.
How does that feel?
Yes, absolutely. I feel good for it, because then I'm ready for my day, whatever's going to come at me, which is always, life is chaotic for all of us, right? Somebody pulls in a car to cut us off, or they're out of your favorite thing at a store, whatever. There's always chaos that happens in the day, work related. There's any number of things. So yes, but I know that I've set that I've set that foundation in place that I don't know how many I got today. I can look on my phone, but I bet I'm at 3 miles so far today. And I feel good for doing that. I just feel good about myself. It's healthier. I talk about movement, meditation, and moderation are the 3 things that we have to focus on. And that checks box number 1 for me, and that's great. I can always, on my habit tracker, did it.
That's good. And and when you go to bed, you're like, even if everything else sucked that day, you're like, well, at least I did this, and that's good, right?
Exactly. Yeah, we do have to reward ourselves like that. I'm glad you mentioned that. We do have to reward ourselves with the things we do. So when we talk about habits, some days you just can't do them all, and that's okay, right? That's okay too. It just, what I urge people to do is not just stop completely, right? If for me, if it's that walk, if I only walk 2 miles today, or I'm traveling and I can't walk any, that's okay. Tomorrow I'll do 5. Again, I'm not telling myself I have to do 10 tomorrow. I just need to get back on and do 5, right? That's what I want to do. And so people do need to not punish themselves out of doing it. So many people, dieting, I think, is the biggest one, right? I had that cinnamon roll, so everything's blown. I might as well stop. That's the worst thing you can do. You could say, I had that cinnamon roll. It wasn't the best choice, but I made the choice, and I'm going to live with it. And lunch is going to be better. Dinner's going to be better. Whatever. And I think dieting is, everybody knows it, because they try to either get in more greens or fruits, or they're trying to lose weight, or they're just whatever. It's one of those. That's one of those real things that just is hard for people to stay on track. And then when they get off track, get back on track. And that I think is the most important thing. It's okay to get off track. Get back on. Get back on the bus. We're still heading this direction. Let's go. So why don't we switch and talk a little bit about?
Tell me about the anchors.
Yes. So I was at the South Texas coast last week, and I was walking on the beach a lot. And one morning I was walking, getting my 5 miles in, and I was noticing there were about 4 families setting up for the day. So they're thinking about their beach day, right? So some of them are putting in an umbrella in their chairs. Some of them, and I don't know on the beaches in Argentina, but they have these canopies they put up, and there's different styles, right?
Oh yeah.
So there's some that's canopy, and then I was watching one guy very meticulously anchoring things to the sand, and he was thinking clearly, even though there was no wind at the time, he was thinking, if wind comes, I want to be prepared, right? And
like,
so
yeah.
he's anchoring in. Now there's others that didn't care; they were just putting the chairs up top. Now the interesting thing about that, what it made me start thinking about, is our value system is the anchors, right? And sometimes anchors have a negative connotation. I'm not using it that way. It's the thing that holds you in place, right? It's when things start happening, you're grounded in a way that it's not going to go away. So, and I think those things are values. And as you know, in Time Bandit, I teach people how to rethink about their values and tie habits to that. So that's what I wanted to get to. So the anchors, if your values are your anchors, then what you think about when you develop a habit, why are you doing that? So reading for you, reading could be that it supports a value of you want to be smarter, or you want to learn new things, or whatever it's tied to. That value needs to be strong enough that you're going to commit to it, right?
Do they have to be specific values? Like, because I think that if I say I want to read because I like it or it makes me happy, is that a good enough value or not?
Absolutely.
Oh.
So first off, your values are your values. They're not anybody else's values. So no one should be able to pass judgment on that, right? They're your values. Now, the interesting thing about, I'll go back to when I'm coaching somebody and I say, what are your values? I always get the same ones: health, wealth, and family, right? And those are good values, right? But they're so broad spectrum, right? Health. What does health mean? To everybody, it means something different. What does wealth mean? To everybody, it means something different. Wealth sometimes comes as career, right? They could just say their career, because some careers you're never going to be rich, like teaching. Unfortunately, I mean, I think they should be, but they're doing teaching for a different reason, not to make money. And then family. Right. And so one of the things that I when I've talked to people, and that I do some volunteering with an addiction group and so forth. And one of the things that always strikes me is when I ask somebody what's really important to you, they say my family. And then they get off work and they drive to the bar and spend an hour and a half at the bar with their either people they work with or their mates or whatever it may be. And then they go be with their family. So what just happened in that transaction? You can't say family is a high value if you value spending time at the bar more with your coworkers, right? And I'm not saying that that's the wrong thing to do, but where is your value system? What you're doing is you're putting your coworkers above your family. If that's your value, that's fine, but just be aware that that's what you're doing. And I think that example points out to how to make a value actionable, right? So, and by the way, I have my values written down. I read them every day.
Oh, I love that.
I mean, the broader category is prioritize family and community, retirement readiness, because I'm up there in age, health and wellness, embody authenticity, and champion people-centric work. So those are my key values. But if you can tell, I've written more down in there because what I did is I said, how do I make prioritize family and community actionable? How does it become something that I embody in myself, right? And so I said, make daily choices that allow quality time and family, ensure flexibility to be present, for important moments and activities with loved ones, right?
I think that actually when you were talking about the example of the bar, I think that maybe that's what we're all missing. Like, we all have our values, but I think we're all missing that second bit that you just read, because maybe that person whose their value is family, maybe they go to the bar and not directly home because maybe in a twisted way, how addiction is. They think that it's shameful or that their family are better off without them. So they are choosing family in a way. They're saying my family is better off if I'm not there. So I'm choosing to not be there with them. So I suppose that the change there is not a change in value, but more of a change in the action that they do to get to that value, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so what I read there is ensure flexibility to be present in the important moments and things like that. So sometimes it's not just about shame that their family's better off. Sometimes it may be, they may be a young mom or a young dad and they don't know what to do. It's hard. right? It's hard. And so it's just putting themselves in a more comfortable spot, right? Which is that temporal discounting again. I can get an hour, I can have a drink, I can relax, and then I'll go do that hard stuff. And so there's a lot of things in there, but the real thing that if we anchor our habits to our values, it gives us more conviction in doing it over and over and over, right? So my walk 5 miles is for my health value, right? Because I want to, it's that retirement readiness, health and wealth kind of stuff. I don't want to be a retiree that sits in one place all the time. I want to travel. I want to do things, right? And it's still further out there. I'm not retiring soon, but it's still further out there. But the fact that I know I want to be ready for that, I can't do short-term things today that are going to compromise that, right? You've just got to, focusing on the value allows you to think a little long-term. It allows you to stretch that term. So
how do you manage that, creating that system without overwhelming yourself? Because you're talking about retirement, and if I think about my retirement, I would cry because I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow. So if I have to think like I know that I have some goals for myself, right? Like I want at some point have my own house is a dream of mine. But it feels so overwhelming so that it's really hard for me to set any sort of anchor value to that because it gives me so much anxiety to think about it. So how do you fix that?
So I think the simplest way to fix it is think of it in increments, right? So in order to buy a house, you have to save money to, do a down payment, whatever the mechanism is in your world. And so you can't save all the money today, but you can save a little bit today and a little bit tomorrow, and a little bit. And then over time, you actually have a lot. And that's one thing I like about, I don't know how it works in Argentina, but in the US, there's something called a 401k, which is a retirement fund that most employers offer that you can contribute to. Well, you can contribute 1% or 10% or 20% of your income to that. And it comes out of your check on a biweekly basis or whatever the period is. And so if you think about that, if you're young, you really just put something in it. It doesn't have to be all of it. You don't have to max it out. I mean, it's good if you can, but you don't have to. And it becomes automatic. And that's what I like about it for, at least in the US system, it just comes out of their paycheck and you don't think about it really, right? And you don't have to think about it because now you can pick investment choices that say, I'm 35 and I'm going to retire. I want to retire at 65, and they will do the adjusting on the risk assessment. So it frees your headspace now to not think about that, but you know that you're at least doing something today. And it's a hard thing to get because most people would say, well, that 1% I could use to do something else, right? And that's the hard part. So with your buying a house thing, I think that's a great example is what do you have to do to prepare to buy a house? Well, you have to have, at least in the US, you have to have good credit. You have to have a little bit of down payment money. And, oh, by the way, understand there's new expenses. So what's in there that might support that value of home ownership? We need to learn. And the more we learn, the better we're going to be. And so the things we might learn is where and how to save money, where to invest, et cetera. I want to learn about what the true cost of a house is. It's not just buying the house. It's insurance. It's things inside the house. It's stuff like that, electricity payments, all that stuff. So you can take little small increments to get to your goal. It's just not, the hard thing for us in our society, our immediate gratification society is it's not tomorrow, right? It may be a year. It may be 3 years. It may be 6 months. Whatever kind of aggressive nature you want to apply to it, make sure your habits are supporting that in the time frame that you want. And then, like we talked about earlier, if you miss something, a week of doing something or a month or whatever, get back on the track as soon as you can. So, and don't beat yourself up about it, right? Because the one thing I struggle with goals. Goals are good, but goals are usually tied to people say, well, you're not motivated enough. And I think motivation is an emotion that wanes. You can't keep motivation up 24/7. You just can't. Yes, right?
It's so hard.
And so I think it's when we talk about goals and motivation, I think you're gonna fail, right? You're just going to fail unless it's a short spurt that you want to try to do. That's why I think we have to put our values out there and anchor the things that we need to do to support them. We don't have to accomplish that today, which is kind of goal centric. What we have to do is get on the journey and keep going little bits at a time.
Do you think that we could make it like a little umbrella and be like, okay, well, here are our goals, but then underneath that we have to like have our habits, and then underneath that we have to like build a routine
Yeah.
and with things that we like and rewarding ourselves, and then those can be like the steps, like a little pyramid that will eventually lead us to that big thing, so that it doesn't become that daunting. Like I thought to myself, like, well, maybe if I want to be a homeowner and I know that right now I can't like do it fast enough or well enough, or I can't save enough money because whatever reason. And sometimes those things are beyond me. Like the economic situation here is not good enough for me to save right now. So I thought to myself, okay, because I become really discouraged. So I thought to myself, well, maybe I can take carpentry lessons. And then when I'm a homeowner in 10 years, I'll be able to fix my house.
Yes.
What would you call that? What is that?
I would call that your journey to your value, right? And yes, it's a goal. But I do like your pyramid example or your umbrella example, because it is that. Just realize that there's a routine in your life that supports that long term. And so with your goal of a house, eventually, you might just buy a piece of land. And then over time, you're going to have the money to build a house or whatever you have on there. And I see a lot of people doing that. My parents, as a matter of fact, they did a great job of it. I grew up in West Texas on a farm, and it was in West Texas. My dad loves to fish, so he knew he wanted to be in East Texas. So somewhere along the way, he found the piece of land he wanted to be on near a lake in East Texas, and he bought it. And then he didn't do anything specifically on that property until the time came. And so he saved and got ready. And then eventually when he retired, they built a house on that land, and they still are there today. Right. So it's an interest, and it's that is a cycle that we need to think about. It's okay to incrementally get there, and it's okay not to get there tomorrow. Just don't lose focus on it. If it's really important to you, don't lose focus on it, because it doesn't mean you have to focus 24 hours a day on it. It just means that when you get $1, 10 cents goes to your house. Right. That's what you need to, that's how you think about it. There's a great book, Flora, that you may have already read or you haven't yet. And it's a very old book. It's called The Richest Man in Babylon. And what I like about this book, I read it long ago. I made sure my kids had it as well. And what I really like about it is it just talks about that concept. You get $1, 10 cents always goes and just it's saved. Right. And now the story, it's a great financial story, but it's told in more of a novel format, as opposed to, you've got to save and this is how 401ks work and stuff like that. Right. It's a story that talks about how you save, but that in and of itself is money centric. You can think about that with other things, diet, exercise, etc. You don't have to exercise 8 hours a day, but if you can find 30 minutes or 20 minutes, 3 days a week, awesome. That's better than you were doing before, right? So does that make sense? It still has that health focus, but you're not going to get healthy tomorrow. You're going to get on the journey to be healthy forever.
Yes, I really like that. I think that I often forget about that because for people who don't know, I work a lot with marketing. And as you said before about social media, it is instant gratification and dopamine and whatever. And sometimes you spend so much time in there because that's part of your job that sometimes I just need to like step out of that and maybe read, like make a little chart, like you said, with the values or with my goals. Or what my mom does is she's so cute. She made this cutouts on a little board, and she put like a house in it. Like she just cut it out of a magazine and she put it there. And so when she gets overwhelmed, she just looks at it and she centers herself. And she's like, everything I'm doing is for that. Let's not despair, because sometimes, as you were saying with social media, we despair. It's we can't help it. And we can do that thing. People are like, oh, just stay off social media, just do it clients. I can. This is my job.
Yeah, exactly. And you remember we talked to Benj a couple of weeks ago or whenever, and it was about meetings, useless meetings, basically. And that's the same thing that you just talked about. If you're a marketer, you need to be in social media because you're learning, you're seeing other examples, you're seeing good and bad things that you want to do for your clients, et cetera. So you have to be there. Same thing with meetings, I think. People think they have to accept every meeting because they feel like that's the culture they have to do. And think about the time they're wasting in meetings they don't need to be in, or meetings that don't even need to be planned at all. And the same thing happens, right? But they feel like, well, it's a meeting, I'm working, it's during working hours. Okay, I'm working. Well, are you working, or are you just sitting there listening to other people babble on about things, right? And so it's the same thing. And what we have to do is find the conviction in ourselves to say that this is my job. And in order to get the best out of that opportunity, I don't need to be sitting on 10 calls a day. I need to be on 2 calls a day and doing this other thing then. And the same thing with your saving, the same thing with your social media. You start turning that social media time into something else, which is evaluating how you want to advise your clients to do something different, right? Or do something better. Learn from others, that kind of thing. And so now if you go into desk scrolling and you're there for 3 hours watching TikTok after TikTok, then you've gone off track, right? And so that's where your habit system and value system comes back. And if you did that, okay, you did it. You can't get that time back. So now let's do something else, right?
That's where the time banded app would be like, don't.
Yeah, I love the concept of habit tracking, and that's why we put it in time bandit. And Catherine, my partner, she loves it too. She doesn't use the other functions. So time bandit also has this notion of attaching a habit to either a personal perspective, business perspective, or aspirational, because I think you should have a balance of each of those, right?
Well,
you should.
Then that's where I'm going to put the house.
Yes, exactly. So you should have habits supporting all 3 of those major categories in your life, because if we're all about business, we see how that breaks people, right? If you're not trying to do something else, a dream, an aspirational, whether it's to learn to play the violin, buy a house, whatever, then you're going to get pretty bored with yourself, right?
And the aspirations have changed with generations. I see people. I have a sister who's 20, and when you ask her, I bet that if you ask her what her values are, she's not going to say career, and she's not going to say wealth. She's not going to say either of those things. That's just not something Gen Z is looking for right now. But they do need to build habits to reach their other values, because they feel even more unreachable in a culture that only rewards wealth and career.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And that's why I said earlier that your values are your values, right? You shouldn't pick a value because everybody else is doing it, right? And then now you could choose habits because other people are doing it, because it supports one of your values. Health is a good one, right? So when you decide that you are going to be healthier to your body and you're going to make this body last a long time, then you have to go find the habit that suits you to support that. It could be running, it could be walking, it could be lifting weights, it could be swimming, whatever. That's where you start saying, okay, now we got find similar interests. And this is where your community piece can come into it, right? Because the more you can find accountability partners, whether it's a time bandit app, or your sister, or your friend, or even somebody you don't know, but you see them every Monday because you do a class, and that accountability becomes very powerful with habit stacking and habit building towards your values, right? So,
yes,
doing it alone sucks sometimes.
Yes,
right.
Yes, I love that. I think that's why running teams are so popular, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that community aspect of it really does make a difference. So, I mean, the lesson here for me is the anchors are things that make it really important to do for you, right? And so that's your values, and make sure that your values are actionable, right? It's not just family as a value. Yes, that's a value, but what does it mean to you? What's important to you about family? Is it more time? Is it experiences? You want to take them, to see new places? What is it about family? And sometimes it may be just, your family's getting older and you just want to spend more time with them. That's okay. It doesn't have to be prescriptive, but make sure that you understand the value opens up your opportunity to develop your habit system around that, right? Your habits should never contradict what you want your values to represent in yourself, right?
So it should be like, the value as a noun, right? And then the habit, or like the sub value, or as an action, as a verb. Would that work? Like, I have my value. It's like, I want to read more.
Yeah.
Why? Because it brings me happiness. It brings me peace of mind. How do I do that? How do I do that?
15 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at night, whatever. I mean, I mean, there's so many opportunities now for that particular habit. I think maybe you decide that sometimes listening to a book is better, because you have to vacuum. So you put on a book and you listen while you vacuum. All right, so now, but that's exactly, I like the way you said it, noun and the verb. And with the noun though, make sure that you say why, right? You like to read, and you said it because it makes you smarter. I forget exactly what you said, but so that was the value, not just reading more. It was reading because it makes me feel this way, right?
Okay.
And so now that you have that, it makes me feel this way, and I want to feel this way more. In order to accomplish that, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to read a book. I'm going to read 30 minutes on Tuesdays and Thursday, or whatever mechanism you need. 10 minutes a day, 30 minutes once a week, whatever. Don't judge yourself by quantity. Judge yourself by execution of it, right? That says,
okay, and I have a final question for you. What if I set that, right? I download the Time Bandit app. I put that in, reading more because it gives me a clear headed or whatever. And I put the 15 minutes, and then I read the 15 minutes and I'm like, well, that wasn't that. I don't feel that good. Like, I feel good, but I don't know if I want to do this again tomorrow. I think that scrolling through TikTok gives me more dopamine.
Yep.
What do I do then?
Yeah. So I think one, you have to evaluate, is reading really what you value? And if it is, and it probably is, if you decided that, you didn't say TikTok is your value, you said reading is the value. And so what I would encourage you to do is find a different setting to do it, right? So something about the time of day you chose, whatever was setting you off a little bit. So find a better place in your week to do that habit, right? Because it's in that scenario, maybe it just wasn't time appropriate. Maybe you just got back from work and you're stressed, and opening the book is just hard because you're thinking, oh, you know what? Michael said something to me I didn't like, and you're just losing. So maybe reading at the early part of the day or Sunday afternoon, whatever, just fine. Maybe you just have to adjust that, but don't give up on it, right? Don't give up on it. And maybe if you say TikTok's important to you too, then maybe you make a 30-minute time every day where you do 15 minutes of reading and 15 minutes of TikTok, right? So there's other ways to do that, but just think about making sure you're in a place that is going to be successful too. If it's a value to you, you need to try different ways of doing it, right? So for me, like my walking thing, I'm not going to go run 5 miles a day, right? It's just not what I want to do. If I told myself I'm going to run 5 miles a day, I would quit pretty early because that's not what I want to do. Walking 5 miles a day is different because I get to do it with my dog or whatever, right? So it has to suit you as well, but don't give up too quick. Maybe if that first 15-minute day didn't work, then figure out something else. Okay. And I strongly agree. One of the things I talk about in Time Bandit from priority management perspective is have a weekly check-in. What worked, what didn't work? What am I going to change this week? Right. It's simple. Those simple questions there. What worked, what didn't work, and what am I going to do this week? Right.
Really like
and
that.
You can adjust. And some things we start, we don't want to keep doing because we didn't like it. Right. It wasn't for us. Right. So for me, eating kale is not going to happen because I just don't like it. So,
I hate kale. It's gross.
Yeah. So you find something else. Don't just give up. Find something else that's a healthier option. Right. So.
Okay. I like that. Actually, you know what? Now since we're here and people are gonna be seeing this, I'm gonna put something out there, a challenge for us to do, and is that if you want to be me and sit here and tell Cupps how to fix your life, please let us know in the comments, and then maybe we'll pick you to have here Cupps fix your life, and you can set a goal and he can help you, because I think that a lot of people my age would really benefit from being in this seat. And being like, please, Cupps, the Lord of Habits, help us. But how do we do this? Maybe people would actually benefit from that. I think that. What do you think? Do you think it's a good idea for us to invite people?
That is the most fun I could have, is helping somebody. I can't say that I'll fix your life, but I will absolutely have a conversation with you about what will make it better and how to start. I think that's the key, is how to start. And I just would say that don't pick a value because everybody else is picking it. Don't pick a habit because everybody else is picking it. Pick what's right for you, because that's what's going to make you over time, is doing that. And so I did want to say, as we wrap up here, one exercise I'd like people to do is if think about your values and just list two or three, don't overdo it, just two or three. And then go to Habit B, which is our AI coach. You can do it on timebandit.io, or if you have the app, you can navigate to it there. And then type in that value and ask Habit B to help you work out how to make that actionable. We've trained the model to try to do that, help you. Now, can't pitch perfection, but it's kind of fun to talk to it and just say, here's a value. I want to spend more time with family. Can you help me sort through how to make that happen and what habits would support that? And it will come back with suggestions. It's not going to tell you how to do it, but it's just suggestions to do. And I think that just talking to somebody about it, even if it's an AI coach, it will help you with clarity. And it'll identify things that will support your value. And then you choose if that's an activity that's right for you, but it's still an interesting exercise to go through. So,
I love that.
And by the way, in the training that I do, you and I've talked about the bundle before. The training, it goes into 3 categories. Well, there's 4 modules, but the 3 categories are value, hierarchy of values, helping you define hierarchy of values, making them actionable. The second is how to build habits, or how to structure habits to support those values. And the third is priority management, which is when all hell breaks loose, what do you do? So that's the kind of that's what's in the training. So I didn't necessarily mean to pitch it, but it's out there.
Go get it because it's good and you need it.
Yes, I would love to do a session or two with people we don't know, and let's talk about it. That'd be great. Thank you for joining me today.
Oh yeah, this was fun. I love yapping. I love talking, so it was nice.
I hope you'll be back on more. I know that our guests love talking with you and coordinating with you, because I saw one last night, Junior, who's going to be on our show soon, and he said, I'm connected. I'm going to do it. So,
yay! Amazing.
Yeah. So anyway, that we kind of wrapped up. I just any questions to finish up?
I have a million, but I'm going to say them to you off camera, because otherwise we're going to go another hour. Yes. But now that I know that I have you and the AI coach and the Time Bandit app, there's so many resources that you have available, and even some of them are free, which blows my mind, because I'm like, if only I can get people to notice this, because these are really life fixing. I know you laugh and you're like, I can't fix your life, but these are excellent tools to help us fix our lives. And I just think they're excellent resources. And I really love the message that you bring with these. And I just really hope that I can get to have people know them. And get the bundle, not only because I want Cupps to succeed, but because it's good. It's good. It's a good thing. It's an amazing product. And
it is. And it goes back to the start point about, the reality is people know they want to do better, and they talk about, habits and things that they want to do. It's just putting it into action and consistency, people shouldn't beat themselves up. Just get on the road, take the next step on that, climb that mountain one step at a time kind of thing. You just gotta get started, and it's okay. I mean, I just think people underestimate what it takes to do certain things, and they get hyper digital stuff coming at them that it's easy. Life's just not easy, but you can certainly enjoy it along the way. So
I love that. Yes. I think the wrap would be, don't quit.
Don't quit.
Try again. Try again.
Yeah. That's it. Well, thank you, everybody. Tune in next time. Do make comments, because we want to make the show better. Be sure to go to Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast, and follow and like us. And Florencia, we'll see you very